Thursday. What's up, everybody? It's the WrestleZone wrap-up. How WrestleZone am I? I'm wearing the t-shirt. You can get it now at WrestleZone.com. What's up, everybody? We are just a couple weeks away, 2 weeks away from one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year. It's still the biggest wrestling show of the year. And in these very weird, turbulent times that we're in, it's this little thing called the Royal Rumble. And someone who's never won the Rumble, but has won all the championships and people think is primed for a big year in 2021, is in the Royal Rumble. We'll talk about that superstar. We have those AEW NXT ratings. They weren't great because of real life things going on. We'll talk about that. We'll get your comments on screen. I am Kevin Callum. Over there on a very, very fancy new camera is one Mr. Dominic D'Angelo. It's phonetic. It's a Thursday. It's Kevin Callum. It's Dominic D'Angelo. It's your comments on screen. We'll get into it here in a little bit. Dom, I know we're busy. We'll have you doing more content for us this week with AEW's Focused Two Dynamite Dudes with Attitudes. We'll have that show here as well. Lots to do. Some possible changes with the big Royal Rumble match as well with Roman Reigns. He doesn't want any of Adam Pearce. We'll talk about that. And we have prizes. Do you know about the prizes? You got to see these prizes. Of course, they always fall down. Right as I'm reaching over them, I knock them down here. Get a load of that.
Yes.
All right, you can win these, baby. I'm gonna go full screen. I'm gonna go full screen on this because I gotta take a screenshot of this.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at that. Hey,
all right.
All right, I'm going to go take the stills from that later. You can win these WWE Elite Mattel action figures, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns. How do you do that? Well, you're getting the clue here. We are going to have something about that coming up before the end of the week on our social medias. And because you listen to the show, you know about it. You know what's up. Keep an eye on us. Make sure you turn your notifications on. That's the biggest thing. Make sure you have your notifications on for us on Twitter, on Facebook, and YouTube, and all those different things so you're consuming more of the zone. We're reeling them in. Let's get into it, Dom. The Miz is in the Royal Rumble. What do you think? This news just came out. He was on TMZ Sports today. Is that a big addition to the Royal Rumble for you? I think he's a bigger player than people think.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I think he's Miz has been honestly kind of pretty forgettable for quite a while now, and it's not. I mean, it's not necessarily his fault. It's just how he's positioned. But it's just I don't care. I assumed he was going to be in the Royal Rumble, and I assume he's not going to last very long. He'll be in there for a couple of spots, and somebody will eliminate him, and maybe further a storyline. Maybe not. Maybe he'll just be forgettable. And yeah, Miz is honestly just kind of forgettable right now. So not.
Well, here's why it's interesting for me. He has the Money in the Bank briefcase. If he wins the Royal Rumble, me as a nerd following WWE every single week creates a certain scenario that we've never had before. He goes in. If I'm just laying it out there, right? Say he goes into WrestleMania, he wins the Royal Rumble. No one expected that.
Yeah, but
if he won it, you wouldn't. If he won it, you'd be like, yeah, he's been there for a long time. It makes sense, right? Okay, And he's certainly a charismatic guy. I can't say he's a boring guy. But he certainly hasn't been a top guy in a long time. And they tried it, but he stayed in the mix. And he's certainly one of those, he's definitely probably one of the top earning guys in WWE, too, quietly, with that reality show TV deal on the side. And all the other things he's doing. So I would say, he's going to be a lifer. Do something big with him before his prime years are done and get another big heel run out of him. But put him in that road to WrestleMania as Money in the Bank guy and the guy who's already won the Royal Rumble. That's different. That's unique. That could put a lot of extra pressure on whoever the champion is that he's going after, and would make it different to see a heel champion go at a babyface going to WrestleMania. Just something to see that I kind of saw on the surface. And on paper here, what surprises do you see with the Royal Rumble coming up? Because I know people always want surprises. This year is going to be a challenging one. From what we know from sources in Florida, it doesn't look like we're going to have fans at this year's Royal Rumble. Simply too much of a structural issue is what we heard from WrestleVotes recently, that this year's Royal Rumble coming up on January 31st will not have fans because it would cost so much to get that very expensive interactive virtual Thunderdome set down to accommodate those fans and properly shoot it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of logistics that go through it. Not only that, too, but you got to kind of think COVID's kind of been ramping back up now, more positive tests, everything like that. I think you got to be much more on the side of caution than you do okay, we're kind of going through it. I think it's just hey, we got to kind of pump the brakes a little bit on, trying to get fans in. I know it's something, obviously Royal Rumble, any live event will be added with fans there, but it's, I think it's probably the safest move to do, the right move to do. As far as surprises go, that's a tough one because, you think about what elements of surprise came in last year. You had Brock Lesnar's run in the Rumble. You had Keith Lee show up.
It was one of the best shows last year. It was one of the best shows across the board in wrestling last year.
Yeah, so Edge obviously huge surprise.
The Edge return was amazing.
That was very on the level of a Cena Royal Rumble appearance. That
and there was some great I believe didn't Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt had a really good match on that. Match. It was just a really, really strong show across the board, and probably one of the best Royal Rumble matches they've ever done. In terms of I remember watching that, and then once Brock got eliminated, people were
in terms of storytelling, I can't argue with you.
Yeah, and that was before Edge came out. That was before Edge got out there. And the Edge match, it set up everything for WrestleMania in that one match. They set up a bunch of different things in that WrestleMania match. So
surprises up for this year. I mean, the only thing that's I'm really thinking about, and I'm not somebody that's super embedded. You guys cover all WWE and NXT and all that stuff, so it's I'm not somebody that's super duper embedded. I would love to see somebody Booker T's kind of teased an appearance in there, and I think he's long overdue for one. And then I would love to see somebody like Karrion Kross show up, or just a presence that's like Damian Priest. I think that'd be a good way to debut him.
Look at this Joker, Tom. Look at this Joker. Look at this jerk. So for the people on the podcast side, we point out the comments, and you guys hear us mention names and all that stuff like that. If you only listen to the podcast, I would love to see some people that only listen to the podcast join us in one of the live ones here. We do them on Facebook and YouTube like that. Robert DeFelice, who joins us several times, one of our contributors, and joins me on the wrap up all the time. But I have to twist his arm to get him over here sometimes, because he's flirting around with Fightful all the time, right?
What a mercenary! What? He's a tag slut.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that AEW on the nose joke. Oh, just such clever humor there. Robert DeFelice says, surprises? I guess he's referencing the Royal Rumble. Laughing my ass off. They got 30. That's the surprise. So his surprise is if they even have 30 wrestlers in the match.
Did they not have 30 last year? I can't.
Yes, they have more than enough wrestlers to have 30.
Well, no, last year, I mean. Why is Robert making that joke?
No, I don't. Yeah, Robert, do a run-in. You know the code to get in here. Do a run-in. I don't know exactly what they're going to have here in terms of surprises. I know some people always expect surprises. Is this the year that you want to have that surprise at a Royal Rumble without a crowd? But I also think WWE is capable with the Thunderdome. They've been doing it long enough now, and they're doubling down on it. They're now making NXT's crowd a live interactive virtual crowd. This is the first week that did that. Our very own John Clark was a part of it last night. Go check out the opening of our show last night. We talk about how different the Thunderdome experience was for him as compared to when he did on SmackDown. It was very, very different. They try to mimic some things that they do at live events with the virtual crowd. I wonder if the Royal Rumble gets a very pivoted production this year in terms of what they do to amp up that Thunderdome crowd so that they get those boisterous reactions and stuff like that. I wonder what they do in that regard. But it'll be hard because the big thing about the Thunderdome is those reactions. And every 90 seconds, are you going to get a surprise? And, that reaction that Edge got is huge. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's huge. If you could put that in a bottle, you could charge a city for a year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be challenging, but I don't hold it against WWE for that regard.
Honestly, stuff like that too, like Edge's reaction, anything like that, it can't be replicated, and you can't do anything to that extent. If I were WWE, if you're not going to have a crowd there, you can't have that kind of live reaction. Mm-hmm. I would really be very thoughtful and mindful of balancing out the background noise and making sure
we're getting some scoops live during the show. John Begg in St. Pete's, Florida. That is where the Tropicana Field is. It's where the Thunderdome is now. We can't validate it right now, Johnny. We'd have to follow up with you this and do some due diligence. But we've heard the chatter that there was fans that were going to be a part of this, and that this was the first major event that WWE was shooting for in 2021 to have fans at it, which was reasonable when we heard that they were moving there in early November. We heard they were talking about moving and they were shooting for something with the Royal Rumble. We didn't know they were going to be at Tropicana Field. I think when people heard they were going to be at Tropicana Field, they thought open air. That sounds safer, better airflow, right? But COVID cases then weren't that great, and they've gotten worse since with the holidays. So I don't see it changing anytime soon. Maybe they go for something like the Capitol Wrestling Center with some limited fans present. But I'm highly doubtful. I'm highly doubtful as well. And like I said, fans, I just don't think you should hold it against judging the show. At this point, everyone's trying to do the best they can. WWE's chosen this route. There's a lot of fans I know that are very casual that love themselves some Thunderdome. And you and I have met those fans on social media or interacted with them. There are some people that really like this thing. I think this will be a part of what WWE does coming out of this, even with limited fans. I think there'll be some version of this in some way, even when we have arenas in some way. I think.
I can see that.
I don't see the Thunderdome going away. Let's talk more about the Royal Rumble event coming up here on the 31st. Adam Pearce, he is a former NWA World Champion, but he has not wrestled. A big player. I mean, this guy wrestled all around the world, but obviously was never a WWE guy, but then became a WWE producer. Now has become, in the eyes of many people, even more than a producer. Now he's the on-air authority figure for WWE on Raw and SmackDown.
Positive one too, like a good guy.
Yeah, he's not like the general manager type. He's coming out there more in a Jack Tunney role, but we've been seeing more and more of him on television, and fans that are in the know that he's a guy who won the NWA World title. Now, WWE has not said this on TV, but they started to work him into storylines, and his biggest presence in the storyline was this past week on SmackDown, and he basically said, I want out of this match, and I don't want to do this. That's what he's following up with here. And this angle kind of involved a big gauntlet match with many superstars. Shinsuke Nakamura actually got a little bit of a boost, which is out of nowhere. He pinned Daniel Bryan, Baron Corbin, and Rey Mysterio in one match. Gauntlet match, 5 guys. Very fun match. Ate up like almost the whole second hour of the show. I loved it, but you knew the angle was coming with Pearce at the end of the show, so I was okay with it. It's one of those like predictable things where you're okay with it if the ride there is entertaining. And it was. So they beat up Pearce when he gets out there. Roman beats him up and then throws him on top of Shinsuke, and it's done. I didn't mind it. Schmaz finished, but Roman's a heel. he's a villain, but he's still, just because you think he's cool, he's cool. What do you think? Pearce is on social media saying he wants this. He cuts the promo saying, I haven't been in the ring. I'm very happy in the role I have now, but where's this going? I think there's a curveball. WWE enjoys themselves some curveballs. And if the curveball is that a mid-40s Adam Pearce gives this monster who's lost his mind and filled with hubris, the most hubris character in all of wrestling, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the reigning best version of himself, no longer a beloved baby girl babyface, right? I think this could be a really entertaining match if they actually just let it go, even if Roman wins. And they just show you a little bit of what Adam Pearce did before he got to WWE. I think there's something there.
100%. I'm with you. Like, I think this is an awesome angle. I love Adam Pearce, and I love the role that he's played, like, as this authority figure. Like, it's done right. And like, I think ever since, he's kind of been he's interacted with The Fiend. He's interacted with anybody you name on the roster pretty much. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's played that role so well. So he's become somebody that the fans can relate to, because he's just a normal dude for the most part. So it's like he's us. He speaks for us in a lot of ways. So him being thrown in there again as an underdog against the big dog is a pretty good setup. Like,
I was gonna say, you better say big dog if you're going underdog. Right.
And
we're talking dogs. We're talking dogs here, dude.
We're talking dogs, and whose yard is it? But I feel he will be. I think if they give him even just a little hope and give Roman a run for his money in this match, but ultimately like Roman, annihilates him or destroys him or something like that, I think it will tell a very solid story. And plus you have to factor in, like, I think we might've talked about this last week, was like those Royal Rumble matches are going to take up the majority of the show. So
they should. They're big, long matches, and they're not. It's not a normal thing. It's this big kind of showcase. It's the all-star game of WWE. And it sets up a bunch of different things for WrestleMania.
And you keep those title matches, which I think they're set up. Both of them can be set up to be relatively short because remind me what's going on with the Goldberg thing now that Drew has COVID.
Well, yeah, I mean that's still on. The match is still on.
Okay.
Yeah, the match is still on. Drew, latest on that. Everyone's asking us every day. Match is still on, and the latest we're getting from WWE officially above the board, and they've said it. This is the first time they've been very open about people having COVID. Some wrestlers on the roster.
Yeah, this is a new thing.
Yeah, but I mean, they've acknowledged they're testing people and doing things.
Yeah, but I mean, from an on-air perspective.
From an on-air perspective, this is the first time they've acknowledged it. Plenty of the wrestlers have acknowledged it off air on socials and stuff like that, but they only did it after they already dealt with it. You know, they only talked about it afterwards. Yeah. And I can understand that, the health thing. It's up to individuals to say that as well. That's another part that people forget. It was like, it's not your business to know things that people don't want you to know. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still on. Drew is asymptomatic. He's not dealing with any severe issues with it. But you better hope he does. You know, you better hope this guy who's a 7-footer who's been holding up Raw, as much as people have said Raw has had a bad year in terms of quality. You gotta admire Drew McIntyre. He's a guy who's put it all together in a right way, just at the wrong time.
Almost Wrestler of the Year nominee. Definitely a nominee. Like definitely in the running for Wrestler.
If he's not the guy, he's on the list.
He's on the list.
So I think him and Goldberg though is a challenge. I think Goldberg comes in with a lot of I would say internet baggage. You know, because I think fans just want to make him pay for the sins of being this established guy. A lot of younger fans want to hate him for some reason. And I can see it, but I also think that's real heat. And I think it can be tapped into. And this is a real situation. If he's coming off COVID, there's a lot of people who can relate to how that's affected their lives, both seriously and not so seriously. And he's acknowledged it. I'm thankfully asymptomatic. But that specter of real life scary situations hangs over this match. And I think WWE will acknowledge it in an understated way. I don't think this will be something where it's like he defeated COVID to get to this. No, I don't think they'll go in that direction. But they'll say, like, I went through some challenging stuff. Life is challenging, and you are another challenge.
Well, Drew's been great at that too. If you think about like him connecting with the fans,
he's one of those guys where he gets the page, and now like he's able to take the promos off the page. There's a lot of people
like when he won the title, even he like reached out to the fans like Dusty Rhodes style.
Oh, love that. Love that. When he reached out to the camera at WrestleMania and they held the camera on him and he was told, like, hey, go up to this when you win, go up here. This is where we're going to frame the shot. That happens all the time. I've been at wrestling shows where that's like, hey, when you win, we want to shoot it here. We want the moment here. Right. And they're calling the shot. We want the belt shot, you know, and that wasn't a part of the belt shot. You know, he did that Stone Cold podcast, and I highly suggest those, by the way. Those are really entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
That is the latest on the Royal Rumble right now. We could have some women's matches kind of come together in the next week or so. See what fans are saying here. Joshua Christian Born, JKB, says Pearce shared a documentary yesterday on Facebook about his time wrestling. Goes by on for 2 hours, so just something to check out there as well. And other people with different things saying, you know, what if Kevin Owens gets involved? Kevin Owens was thrown off the Thunderdome like tier about a week or two ago. Could we not see him until Royal Rumble? That would be crazy. If Pearce just won the title to be a transitional champion, that would be absolutely nuts.
How crazy would that be?
It would be crazy here. Terrell Diggs with us all the time. Do you think Daniel Bryan will win the Royal Rumble? In terms of superstars that are being talked about for the Royal Rumble, he is the one that people are talking about the most to win the Royal Rumble. And as we do every day in January, leading up to the Royal Rumble and leading up to giving away this action figure.
Hey now.
If you're a big Yes fan, look at that. He's doing the Yes thing. And you can change his, look at that. You can change you can change his noggin. And you can change his hands.
Daniel Bryan or ROH?
You can do grippy hands, you can do punch hands, and you can do points if you want to point someone in the eye.
I got a Billy Graham over there too. That's like that.
You got a Billy with the posable hands. Kind of
well, he's got the mutton chops. That one, or you can get the goatee Billy Graham.
What do you prefer? You prefer mutton chops?
Oh wow, that's tough. I think mutton chops Billy Graham.
Back to Daniel Bryan. I think he's the favorite to win the Royal Rumble. I know some years people want the Royal Rumble to be filled with surprises. I do think there'll be something in there, and it'll be satisfying to people in a way that people aren't expecting. Last year was that, right? And if Daniel Bryan wins it, I'm happy. I think that's a cool moment. I'm more into a Roman Reigns is going to have this title at WrestleMania. I'm more into a Roman Reigns Daniel Bryan match than I was a month or two ago. I was into Daniel Bryan having something at WrestleMania. I'm a fan of his. He's my favorite wrestler to watch every week, right? Just taking my WrestleZone hat off and I just shut my brain off and I watch wrestling. I love watching him in the ring. I think it's just pure art. But Roman is on a different level now in terms of the things he's doing with his character. And I think they can tell a really, really great story. Probably the best story at this year's WrestleMania if they get to it.
Here's the thing. Anything, I think I'm 100%. Daniel Bryan's my WWE guy, like no doubt about it, and like probably one of my wrestling, no doubt, top 3 wrestling guys too. But it's just like, I think the different dynamic that presents with Roman Reigns now and Daniel Bryan, who's always likable, and then like we mentioned before, the eagerness and willing and the fans wanting Daniel Bryan to win a Royal Rumble over the course of 6 years at least now, that you get that payoff. I think aside from like, you could have somebody like Daniel Bryan win, obviously, which I think is the ultimate thing. But if you like, the only other person I could really see with the fans not being super upset at the outcome would be like somebody like Big E winning. And then like having the Intercontinental belt and almost like a Warrior Hogan kind of vibe going on with.
I don't mind a heel too. I don't mind setting up a heel or a villain with.
Well, heel versus heel, that wouldn't necessarily make.
No, because you have Drew as well. If Drew still has that title.
Oh, you're saying so somebody challenges Drew instead. I get what you mean there.
Yeah, and as for the women, it feels like an open thing. It feels like a completely open game.
I'm saying Rhea Ripley
this year. What?
I'm saying Rhea Ripley still. She's still my pick.
I see Rhea Ripley as well. I think this is a great call up for her. I think this is a great way to get her back in the ring with Charlotte. If Charlotte's still not busy with Lacey Evans trying to steal her father away from her, which is a ridiculous storyline.
I don't agree.
Yeah. So a lot of people chiming in here. Let's get to this other story coming up right now. It's not coming up. It's happening right now. And this is AEW NXT ratings. Now, we had this. They've been stung the past 2 Wednesdays here. So the 6th of January.
What's been going on? I don't get it.
Well, there's this real life thing going on. So
there's real life aside from what we're doing here.
Yeah, there's real life. There's real life going on besides what we're having here. I'm having issues with my wonderful software here at WrestleZone that does not let me move things around here. So. Yeah, no, you know, it's a VM. I'm just trying to change the text on screen, and it's trying to be itself here, because it won't let me do that. There we go. Sound off. Let us know what you think of this. AEW NXT ratings. They got stung the past 2 weeks. January 6th, there was the riots in DC. What do we have this week? Well, the follow-up of that was the impeachment hearings. You know about this. It was everywhere. It consumed the news media cycle. Really consumed the media cycle. And we had a lot of different issues with it. Plus, we also had a bunch of different sports news, which was pulling people away from things. And I think AEW got stung. NXT got stung by this as well. The ratings came in. AEW's right around where they were last week. What are those numbers, Don? We got those.
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. 7. This is what I have when I have a bunch of.
Here, I got it.
I got it, buddy.
762 for AEW
and 551 for NXT. I just pulled it up.
So AEW placed 31st, and then NXT didn't place at all. Number 70. They were number 70.
So they got themselves in the top 100. Another thing with that, you can see all the different hours that break down here. A lot of cable news taking this from them. A lot of cable news shows. And this is just cable ratings. This is a network ratings as well. It's always worth noting. And none of this reflects what is the shows are consumed with on socials or streaming day after. We just have to say that. It's an off week for the rating. I think we're not. I don't think we're going to pay attention to these ratings for at least a little while until things calm down. So just where they are.
It could be like that next week too, Kev. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? I mean, inauguration.
There's maybe the inauguration next week.
Yeah, right. It's
it's like that's almost the whole month then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
in terms of what they have going on. NXT kicked off the Dusty Rhodes Classic. Next week they kick off the women's version of it. So they're going to do this concurrently. Also, I thought the clever thing they did with this is our very own John Clark confirming this to us. They're taping those matches on 205 Live as well. So when they'll have matches that may not be as marquee as other ones, to flesh out the tournament so that we are at least by the end of the tournament at the next takeover event, which is February 14th. And I was like, hell yeah. Make 205 Live a little bit more amped up. Maybe not give away the biggest matches in the tournament there. Good way to do it. And the women will be on those shows as well. So those 205 Live shows on the network will also feature the women for the first time in a long time. I'm down with that idea. AEW obviously continues to collaborate with Impact Wrestling. A very, very curious collaboration that's been going on now for about, 6 weeks or so, sometime into mid-December-ish. We got to hear about these things. So we're about a month into it now. Kind of think the bloom is off the rose a little bit. It's not bad, but it's certainly not as interesting or hot as it once was, and certainly isn't moving the needle for AEW to retain viewers with this very challenging news time. The Good Brothers showed up last night, Carl Anderson and Big LG Luke Gallows. We were supposed to have Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, who's constantly going over to Impact to make fun of them, right? And he's set to be on the Hard to Kill pay-per-view for Impact on Saturday. So this Wednesday over in AEW, different promotions, different company, they're collaborating. He said, I'll be with the tag team champions in the 6-man match. They'll be with me taking on, 3 unfortunate men who have to job out to them. Sorry, Danny Limelight and the Varsity Blondes. That's your duty tonight. But they had a more competitive match than I was expecting, but we were expecting the Young Bucks. And we got, by Impact champions, I meant these guys. I meant these tag team champions. What did you think of the angle? Is it still red hot for you? Has it compelled you as an AEW follower to check out Impact?
I mean, I'm like, if I was trying to take myself, I'm covering Hard to Kill this weekend for WrestleZone. So if I was trying to take myself out of it, it would kind of take a little bit of the bloom off the rose for me, because part of the incentive of seeing that was seeing Kenny Omega tag with Anderson and Gallows. And guess what? We just got that on Dynamite. So not that I'm disinterested in, because I think it's cool to have Motor City Machine Guns be going up against Kenny Omega. I think that's still an intriguing part of it and all that. But honestly, I thought it was a weird venture to take, because, again, it puts the question mark up in the air with what's going on with the Young Bucks. Like, it's so weird. Like, okay, they were heels, clear-cut heels at the end of the last week's show, and then they get swindled by their own friends this week. They made that clear on that show, saying like they don't seem aware of all this. Like they seem to be cut off guard.
I'm in the camp of I don't know if they're heels. I'm in the camp of I don't know what. I don't know what.
Yeah. It's such a frustrating aspect of the angle that it's taking me out of the angle. So
yeah, and it's supposed to be. Here's the thing: you got a lot of different history to play with here, because Young Bucks, Anderson, Gallows, Kenny Omega clearly have a ton of history that goes back a very long time to when they were rolling with the Bullet Club in New Japan and Ring of Honor, and it was a very, very hot time for them about 5-6 years ago. And fans wanted that. They wanted Gallows and Anderson there. They're there now, and this is no shot at Gallows and Anderson, who we've loved having on WrestleZone, by the way.
I think you're great. Yeah,
I think they're great guys. I think they've done some very unique things with Talk and Shop and Mania and with Impact. I don't know why this isn't a bigger deal. It was cool last week, but did you get the sense that this was followed up on in a big way? I mean, they did the tag team match. They took out the guys. Moxley hit the ring. John Moxley from last week, they took him out, right? He was the big beatdown guy. Then the Young Bucks got in there and mixed with them. So we're going to have Kenny Omega and Anderson and Gallows versus Moxley and the Bucks at some point, right? Yeah, pretty cool. But I don't feel like this is a barn burner angle like it's supposed to be. I don't get the impression from fans that this is a needle mover. Am I wrong?
Kev, I think you're kind of like, I'm glad you brought this up more so and gave a little more detail to it, because I just think this made me think about, like, it would seem much more like a big deal if they gave Gallows and Anderson the opportunity to talk on last night's show, like maybe before.
No, I agree with that. No promos on that. A little bit more clear.
Promos. Yeah. I wanted some more. You give me more personality of these guys, because these guys obviously have personality and can get shit over. So, like, why not give them that opportunity to do that instead of just like, hey, here's Gallows and Anderson. You probably know them from WWE, or maybe you know them from New Japan, but we're not going to give you too much context for that. Like, I think that would have greatly helped and created more of a understanding, because nobody knows the different beefs in the, like, you can totally buy so back kind of to the Young Bucks too, you can totally buy them maybe having some inward animosity towards one another, like Gallows and Anderson and the Young Bucks. You could buy into that.
Yeah.
But, don't end last week's show with the Bucks super kicking baby faces, and like making them seem heelish, because now where are we supposed to lie with the Young Bucks? Like last week going into this show.
Do I cheer these guys?
Cheer them? I'm definitely not cheering them, because what's making me like them right now? There's not.
This is that issue I bring up with you all the time.
Yes.
With AEW is whenever they want to get away from doing sometimes you need to do ABCD. You need to follow certain dance steps. The elements are already there. They don't need to play up the relationships and the friendships and the history that they have here. I mean, they can do it with vignettes. They can do it with vignettes. They can do it with that. But the thing is, doing those things mean the lane is kind of already set for you. You know what I mean? You can do the swerve of like, hey, we used to ride with you guys. And you guys are doing this now, and we're rooting for you, but you came here and you're stealing our spot. We're just not going to have it. You can play up the friendships that are now become enemies. There's nothing wrong with that.
You got to make it clear, though, to the viewer.
But nothing is clear.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a big issue. This is why last week's AEW, I thought for me, it was a real marked step down from the previous week. I'm starting to see this kind of up and down thing where there's
last week. You mean this?
I thought last week's show was great. I thought this one was a mark down in a lot of different ways across the board. They got too much on the show. So there's way too much crammed into the show, and they're booking a 2-hour show like it's a 3-hour Monday Night Raw. Like they have a lot of time to do these things. I felt plenty of the matches were rushed. I thought the talking segments worked because the matches are just finish, and nothing settles in. Nothing settles in, and there's always a post-match angle after everything, and the formula is starting to show itself. The sheen of it's AEW, we're new and we're fun is there. It can't just be another wrestling show with wrestler A comes out and interferes, cuts promo, and does. You can't do that. But sometimes when the elements are there to do the ABCD move, it's there. There's a ton of history, vignettes, film it up. Let's get to the match. Let's make sense. Give me a babyface. Give me a heel. They're getting a little too fancy with these things, while at the same time trying to cram too many things, and everything just feels like white noise.
Kev, I'm with you on like the whole angle of the Bucks and stuff. Honestly, I thought the flow of the show, it wasn't as good as last week's, but I didn't feel like too overwhelmed or too much.
I'm not saying it was bad, but
no, I thought it was ultimately. I thought it was still a good show, and what they presented and how they presented it too. I thought there was a great deal of variety from even the opener. You're used to seeing those boom, 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 fast paced tag team matches.
They slowed it down. It was a
Kingston and Pac was a completely different match to start off.
Smart because they've been doing the tag team.
Yes, I thought it was a good variety to get, and so ultimately, I thought the show as a whole flowed very well and told pretty darn good stories ultimately. But yeah, with this whole angle, arguably your top angle going on right now, it just muddied the waters a little bit. And part of the incentive to tune into Hard to Kill, I think, was seeing Kenny Omega tag with the Good Brothers again. You still have the element of the Motor City Machine Guns and Rich Swann being involved.
And this was a surprise. Yeah, that was another thing.
It was a surprise, but I kind of almost, we'll let the story play out. They should make things, but up until this point, they should make things a little bit more clear for the viewer who's not in tune with. And even that, it's still unclear to me as a somebody who watches it and writes about it. What the heck are the Young Bucks doing, and how are we supposed to feel about them? Because right now, I kind of I'm in a purgatory with them. I don't know what the heck, how to feel.
Purgatory. We will talk about MSK, formerly known as the Rascals. They're from Impact in just a second. Yes. I do want to remind you, if you are an Impact fan, we will be covering, as you mentioned already, Impact Hard to Kill on Saturday night. Trying to figure out if we're doing the post show Saturday night or Sunday. We're going to find that out. But we will have a preview show tomorrow afternoon. So you're getting almost 6 days of content from WrestleZone this week. Boss man Bill Pritchard is going to leave the executive corner office and join us on the wrap up. And that'll be tomorrow afternoon. What would you say? Would you say
there, WrestleZone headquarters?
Yes, it's gonna come down from HQ, Zone HQ, WZHQ. We'll get into it here. A big team that left Rascals, and this is one of the bigger stories for Impact, was the Rascals leaving. And this is 3 teams. This is Wentz. I always forget the third fella.
Xavier, and then Trey Miguel.
Desmond Xavier. So Desmond Xavier, Wentz, and Trey Miguel. Great trio. The Rascals, very fun-loving team. Almost like we're young, high-flying wrestlers. High flying. And they embrace it. They're 3 fun young RVDs, right? So, and they do their little pose where they put their fingers in their mouth, and we're rascals. We're up to stuff, right? Oh, and they debut in the Dusty Cup, a tournament built all around tag team wrestling that I think on paper is really strong. Like when I saw the brackets come out for this, I was like, ooh. Grizzled Young Vets are in there. Imperium's in there. Adam Cole and Roderick Strong are in there. Breezango, they got knocked out by Undisputed Era last night. But I was like, this is a really depth-driven tournament. Like, I was like, there are teams they're going to eliminate in the first round that are really, really strong teams in terms of how it laid out. MSK, they debut. They take out Isaiah Scott and Jake Atlas. Those guys are middle ground right now. Established guys. You can do something fun with them eventually. But I didn't mind it. This sets up Nash, Carter, and Wes Lee. That is their names now in WXT. I know the name thing. I'll get over it. Like every time someone freaks out about those, like you'll get over it. It's WWE wants to license to market your name. You want to do.
They can do better. That's my problem.
They can do better, but it's a lot of this times it's a legal thing. It's like is that name owned by somebody? Can we put that on a cup eventually? You know, like it's eventually something like that. It's Marvel and DC, guys. You're not, like the same idea. They have a very fun, activated match with a lot of cool styles. And they definitely went for some interesting things. They have a cool intro. They were treated like a big deal debuting. What's the future for them in WWE NXT? And what's the future for, you think, maybe stars going to WWE at this stage? Because this is a different time to come out into WWE without fans.
Yeah, so I think in NXT, I think the sky's the limit for them because the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier, they were amazing in Impact. And like, if you saw any of their tag matches, they flowed so well. The chemistry that they have together is electric. So unique, and their personalities and charisma just exude out. So huge get, and I think they can they'll really bring the tag team division, which has been like, kind of like we talked about this before, like since the pandemic has taken, tag team division has kind of been forgotten about in certain ways. Like they haven't been that primary, but I think
to a degree, but it's of the 3 that they have, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, it's the best.
Well, but I mean, from a focal standpoint, like the attention hasn't been given to them as much, and it's almost like because
you had Lorcan and
Birch.
Lorcan and Birch won these titles. Great tag team. They had one of the best matches I've ever seen in a tag team match. Them in NXT against Undisputed Era live show years ago. Yeah. But they won those before War Games. The last month and a half, it hasn't been the feature because they were so tied into that angle. I'm okay with it. A tournament to rev it up. Also, they're doing it with the women.
Yeah.
So that comes next week. I think I think this is another thing where I think people are sleeping on NXT.
I think this will be this is what I'm saying, Kev, is I think a tag team like MSK will elevate tag team NXT wrestling, tag team wrestling back to the level that it could be at, that it was at previously, and will be there now. I think as far as
they'll be the exception too, where people say, "Oh, they go to WWE and they ruin you," right? Well, they went to WWE and they went right into NXT. And we haven't had like a big team jump over like that in a little while here. We had Cross do it recently last year, and he certainly feels like a way bigger star. Obviously, they needed an Impact. It's a bigger show, more viewers. It's WWE, right? I think they're going to get the same flow here. They're going to feel like yes, we love the Rascals. Some people don't like the MSK name. I think they're going to feel like a bigger deal before the end of 2000.
That stuff will, even the names and anything like that, that'll all get kind of washed away if they utilize them properly.
Yeah.
But now my thing still is too, I'm not letting WWE off the hook when it comes to what they're going to do. Like, say if somebody gets brought to main roster instead of that.
So that's always a challenge, though. Too,
that's always the challenge, and that's ultimately
because I think you get more competitive for time on TV at that point.
Either way, it's like you get called up to there, and it's almost like okay, if you put NXT in a vacuum, then it's great. Like, and everybody's utilized properly, I think, for the most part. And your world title holder looks like a world champion, but you get it up to the next level, somebody gets moved up there. There's always that unknown of being lost in the shuffle, and there's always like, what's the end game? Is this a Tyler Breeze kind of outcome for that person? Is this something else where it's like they're not going to get utilized? And that can happen to any talent in NXT, and that's been proven. So that's a concern of mine, and it always will be a concern of mine until creative stuff changes on the main roster.
Want to see if we can jump into a Q&A here before we're done. I don't think we have any big breaking news. I was waiting to see if we had something else coming in here. This is a fun angle that we can comment on before we get into your questions. Get your questions ready to go here, so we can answer. I do want to mention our Best of the Business series has continued. Impact will present Hard to Kill on Saturday, and the head of Impact, Scott D'Amore, did an exclusive interview with us. It is up now on our podcast feed, on our Facebook, and our YouTube. You can watch it now. You can read it now at WrestleZone.com. The man who has driven this brand to so many big things. That interview is up now, so go check that out.
Yeah.
We'll have more of those coming out in the weeks ahead here. I do want to talk about this, though. We had this Bullet Club reunion, right? Mm-hmm. At least that's what fans are calling it. You know who's not calling it a Bullet Club reunion?
I just wrote about it, so yeah.
yeah, you know. That was my soft pitch there to you. It was a softball. You could have knocked that one out of the park. Tama Tonga, he is one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions in New Japan. He is one of the core members of the Bullet Club faction that started in New Japan. And yes, that term is still owned by New Japan. He is an OG. You can check out his podcast, Thomas Island. Our very own Ross Berman contributes there. No conflicts. He was recently talking here to Ross and said, what got me triggered is when I heard Kenny Omega going, Bullet Club. You son of a bitch. The one guy that tried to dismantle us from the inside, split us in two, the Elite and the Bullet Club. The guy who tried to ruin the Bullet Club is now using Bullet Club as an angle. How can it be a reunion if Bullet Club is still here in New Japan? We ain't never went anywhere. They should have called it something else, like ex-members, right? The ex-members reunion. Because y'all have gone. And when I say y'all, every single one that was in a different company was in a different companies trying to do the same thing with Bullet Club. But they called it the club, the OC, Balor Club. I mean, no matter what you guys try to do, you're just not Bullet Club. Now, how are you trying? Now you're trying again. You're hashtagging that, calling it Bullet Club. That's a slap in the face to us. And that's still riding with BC in Japan. What do you think of that? Testy comment there on Thomas Island from one Tama Tonga. I don't think he's wrong.
No, I love it, actually. I think it's cool. Like, the cool thing about Tama Tonga is he doesn't waver, and he keeps, and like, whether it's like he's playing into the angle or not, I think he keeps to his like core thing where it's like, this guy is an OG to a T, like, kind of thing. It's like, and I think that plays to who he is. And it's just like, it's a neat aspect to kind of like, no, you guys say you're Bullet Club all you want. You come up with all these iterations of us. We're the Bullet Club. It's me, Bad Luck Fale, whoever else may be there now. We're the Bullet Club, and it's a great way to handle it.
And that group is still there now. Mind you, that group has evolved and changed a whole lot,
so many times. But it's cool
so many times. And I'm of the camp where I don't even think they need it. I don't think New Japan at this point needs it. It's not what it once was. But I get it. People still like buying the T-shirts and doing Too Sweet and stuff like that. I get it. But I also saw a comment from Kevin Nash last week.
Oh yeah.
Where Kevin Nash, a lot of what Bullet Club even was a play on the NWO. Yeah. And they were basically just trying to do like a new version of the NWO, but call it something else and do the 2-seat dab thing, which was taken from gang culture, by the way. And NWO did that in like the 90s. And Nash was him and Nash and Hall really put that together. That was a send off of the Click, So it was built off all these different groups from like 20, 25 years ago. And Nash commented when they got together and they put up their 2 seats, they put it on a T-shirt. Go get our T-shirt. Kevin Nash says,
life on there.
When am I getting my check? Like when am I getting my check for that? It's not wrong about that. Some people are, for lack of a better phrase, taking shots here at AEW, and I think they kind of earned it. You know what I mean? Like, I think they kind of earned it. Like, you guys are like,
Kev, this is what I like about wrestling too in general as a whole is like, you have all these different personalities, and obviously, like with wrestling and with anything, people get copied off of one another, so that's going to happen.
And it's almost natural,
It's
like,
natural, and like it's it was a tip of the cap to them, but it's also like, yeah, that's their thing. They came up, they originated it for wrestling and everything like that, and so it's but yeah, I think you have this legendary wrestler in Kevin Nash. Making some sort of interaction with these newer guys, modern guys. It's kind of fun from just an observer's aspect.
All right, let's get right into your questions here. A couple of them coming in here. Let's talk Tommaso Ciampa. He has been back in WWE NXT for a while, but he hasn't felt like the big main eventer he should be when he came back from his most recent lengthy injury out of action. Stephen Chambers, do you see Ciampa losing to Thatcher in the fight pit and moving him to the main roster? There's been talk of moving Ciampa to the main roster for a long time, but it always seems to die down as much as it ramps up. I'm of the thought that I don't think we see Tommaso Ciampa on the main roster. I just don't think we see it. He did a little bit, and then he got hurt, and then he went away, and then he stayed an NXT guy. And Gargano went back down as well when they tried to do those call-ups last year. A year and a half ago now. This year,
crazy.
2020 feels like a wash. I'm talking about 19 at this point. But with Ciampa, he's back now. He wrestles selectively. He feels like a featured performer. And that in that regard, him coming off neck surgery, shoulder surgery, knee surgery, he still wrestles a great style, but I don't think you're going to see him as much as you would. I think he's a lifer for NXT. I think he'll be that type of guy, and there is nothing wrong about that. I think he stays in that position. As for him and Thatcher in the fight pit, very interesting scenario. I think this is something we were supposed to get on New Year's Evil. I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be a match that fans are not going to want to miss, or it's going to be going down and people are like, oh, I gotta click over and see that. Could be a little bit of a thing that eats into AEW next week. Don't see it switching the ratings a whole lot, but could be a strong one to get, if the news is fine, if we're in a fine news cycle, to get NXT rolling back on a positive number, or at least for fans watching every week. Come on. Fight Pit's a cool thing. They've only done it once, and it felt cool the first time.
Yeah, and I think Thatcher does need a good, solid win under his belt, so I hope he does.
He needs it more than Ciampa does. He definitely needs it more than Ciampa does. Yeah.
Ciampa can be kind of pretty, since you mentioned he's like a featured player, like a featured.
He can take the hit.
He can take it just fine. Yeah, I'm for the most part with you with Ciampa not being like the only thing that makes it different from him not getting called up to the main roster till now, like is the stationary location that they're at. Like the big thing for Ciampa was he did not want to travel around. Like when
Balor too, that was a big issue with Finn Balor. He's kind of expressed, I like being able to stay in Florida.
I like being able to stay in Florida, and like
now everyone's doing that.
Now everybody's doing that. So maybe you could see Ciampa come up. I would love to see him like come up and like have a like one-off feud with Daniel Bryan or somebody like that. Like,
yeah,
I'm
not opposed to it. That's just kind of where I see things going.
Yeah, no. If I had to venture a guess, I would say he's probably going to stay in NXT. And for again, back to my point, I feel like for the most part, that's probably a good thing for a lot of the NXT talent right now.
You want a testy question? You want to test?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to go into the toxic region of wrestling tribalism? You ready for this one?
I'm always
you are the AEW guy. There are people. I'm not super critical of AEW. I just kind of call out things that aren't connecting. And I see other fans say it, and I kind of do some due diligence on it. I'm enjoying it. It's still one of the more satisfying wrestling shows of the week. For me, there's some glaring issues, and they just kind of stand out so much when the show is so strong. But Bob Coaster has this one. Why don't you read this one here from Bob?
All right. Will Khan finally admit he isn't a booker and hire a real one? You know what? I think Tony Khan is doing a very, very good job overall for the most part. Like, and you know what? There's so much detail that goes into some of these storyline aspects. Somebody mentioned too, to that point, is that Taz initially went to Darby Allin to give him advice on how to handle a crucifix pin when he lost to Cody Rhodes. And Darby was like, no, I know how to handle that. And like Taz took exception. Obviously, a feud built between him and Taz. And then lo and behold, here comes this match last night where Darby Allin defeated Brian Cage via what? A crucifix pin. So it was a nod back to that. Something I didn't pick up on, but somebody on Reddit did. So I think I think a perfect showcase, like a bittersweet showcase for Tony Khan as far as how his booking goes, was the Brody Lee show. So I think he knows what he's doing for the most part. Criticize him all you want, but I think he's got his finger on the pulse, the overall. So yeah, that's what I feel.
Fair response. Questions here. Multiple people asking this. We have Hard to Kill on Saturday. Don't want to give away too much of our preview show. We'll get into it. What members of AEW show up on that show? What members of AEW are going to give reprisal to Kenny Omega and Anderson and Gallows walking all over, AEW and insulting it and doing that with their title and doing all these different things? What's going to happen here? Where does this go? How many other AEW? You're the AEW mind. I need to know what you think here. Do we have an AEW influence on Saturday night?
I think you could see some talent show up, and who maybe, let's say Jeremy and Max, as in Generation Me, make a run in.
Do they call themselves Generation Me?
Who knows?
They will just for the. I remember watching them, and they were in Impact Pro. They're called Generation Me. All right, I went to Sacrifice in 2008 and 2007. I was there, and Dave Meltzer wasn't.
But I think that you could see that as a follow up to Wednesday. What happened on Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you guys screwed with us. We're screwing with you.
Definitely here. Different takes here. Mainly people ask you what AEW people are going to show up from the show. Here we go. James Espanto. James, I've never met you, and I spend more time yelling your name than most members of my family at this point because you listen to our show so much. Love you guys that watch the whole show. One of our number one fans. I think he just loves hearing people yell his name. He goes, be careful, Dom, off topic. In your opinion, what are the best theme songs in wrestling currently?
Kev, you want to go first?
Right now, I know people freaked out when Keith Lee, he had that really cool one in NXT and it changed when we went to Raw, but that was more of a music rights issue. They only had rights to do it on a certain TV show. I know people freaking out about the Tarzan song coming to AEW and Jungle Boy getting the rights to that 80s obscure hit. Oh, right. And that's pretty cool. I really think Karrion Kross is a great theme song. The Fall and Pray is really cool. It plays in the entrance. It's this kind of like fun lip sync number for Scarlett to do. It plays to the best entrance in wrestling right now that Kross has, the way it's shot. It's also one of those entrances that, think about this too, no fans. Like, I mean, they have some fans now, but like they've never done that with an arena full of people. So I'm really enjoying that. I've actually listened to it a handful of times on my own, and it really, really builds, and it has a really cool feel to it. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Darby Allin. I just like his a lot.
It is cool. It has a fun, it has a fun like AFI vibe to it.
And it sounds like, and it's something that there's very few wrestling tunes that I'll like play on a loop over and over, and I found myself doing that with Darby Allin's theme. So I would go with him. As somebody that doesn't have this theme anymore, that's I think they just wanted to separate themselves from the band or the artist. Was Aleister Black's original theme too in NXT. That was a great one too, but
absolutely.
That's not in the running anymore.
I completely agree. So we got AEW Dynamite, 2 Dynamite dudes with attitudes. That's our focus show with your brother. That'll be pretty busy. We have the Hard to Kill content. Tons of different stuff for you this week. All right, tons of different stuff for you. If you haven't done it already, keep following us on socials. So the people watching us on Facebook, why am I bringing this up? Make sure you follow our page as well. So if you turn your notifications on, you're going to get a post about these, okay? You're going to get a post about what these can do for you, and you can win these, all right? We're going to give one away to 2 lucky winners before the end of the month, all right? Those figures are going to be pretty cool. How do you do it? Keep watching. keep watching and listening. For you guys on the podcast, if you don't do it already, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as well. And we're going to give away those details very, very soon. I just want the podcast people to be in the know and ready to go so you can win these because we know it's going to go pretty fast. Just say that. All right, so you want to win those WWE Elite Mattel action figures. Just keep an eye on our socials. A lot to come up. Keep following us on all the different things. You can follow Dominic on Twitter. Dominic, where do they go?
You go to Dominic D'Angelo, at Dominic D'Angelo on Twitter. Just easy. That's my name. So
you can follow me on the Twitter machine at KevKelm. That's KEVKELLAM. Yeah. I will be tweeting about the ridiculousn's of our real world and all those different things. Have a couple of different things in the fire for 2021. I'm trying to book a tour. It'll be fun. Stand-up comedy tour at some point.
Rooftop stuff? You gotta do like rooftop stuff?
It's hard. There'll be this transitional period when people actually get to go out and see stuff again. And hopefully that's at some point in the summer. That's where it's looking like right now. There could be some socially distant things I could do before then. Go and do the show, be safe, then quarantine for 10 days, and then go and do another show, be safe, quarantine for 10 days. I can handle that too. So I hope everyone out there is being safe. I know we keep saying it and everything like that, but we're so grateful, especially now when we're spending so much time with different screens and the earbuds on, the fact that you spend it with us and you have so many other options. We're still very, very grateful for it. Take care of yourselves. Wear that mask. Keep that distance. All right. We want to see you at the matches when we can get back. It'll be really, really, don't the hand over your mouth and nose doesn't count. That's not a real mask. Yeah. Wash your hands, Dominic.
I will. Hey, come on.
All right. We're being ridiculous here. Don't worry. We'll be back. We'll have Robert back and he'll do jokes about Space Mountain. And, no outside interference from the cat today, Dominic. We didn't have.
Yeah, he wasn't that lap a little bit, but I worked around him.
Usually we get a cat run in when we have you on the show, but he's not being as much of a heel as he normally is. So I appreciate
he's not running in. And
yeah, if you guys are watching the show, let us know. If you're watching on demand, here's your on demand question: is your cat or your dog a heel or a baby face? Let us know. You got a heel cat?
Ah, man, no, he's like the likable baby face, but he's like. I think he's a likable baby face.
He's a likable baby face to you. To me. You're Randy Orton's dad. You're Randy Orton Sr. You love him. You think he's just the best, the bee's knees.
Right. Okay. I'll give you. Okay. I don't think I told this story on air before.
What?
But I interviewed Dustin Rhodes like last year.
Yeah. Look it up. It's on our YouTube. You can pop it up. Yeah.
So as I'm doing this, it's over phone, so it's an audio one. So as I'm doing it, I'm talking to Dustin. Grandson of a plumber and the legendary son of Dusty Rhodes. I happen to name my cat Dusty after Dusty Rhodes. So I'm rushed home to get there, and I immediately feed Dusty. And I'm like, okay, I gotta get set up for this interview, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I set it up. I'm talking to Dustin on the phone. Dusty tends to gorge himself. So let alone he goes up on this windowsill. It's during the summertime. I'm talking to Dustin. And all of a sudden, I see Dusty over there, like convulsing,
Dusty
and then
the cat, Dusty the
cat, convulsing on the windowsill, and then he throws up all the food he just gorged. As I'm talking to Dustin Rhodes, so I no-sold it.
Please don't tell me in front of Dustin Rhodes, son of Dusty Rhodes, that you yelled at your cat, Dusty the cat.
I did not.
Dusty, stop throwing up. Did you say Dusty stop throwing up in front of Dustin Rhodes?
No, I didn't. I completely no-sold it. It's like it never happened. So you can listen to it at some point.
You knowing me, if that was me in your shoes, I would absolutely say, "God damn it, Dusty!
Dusty, what the hell? Stop it."
Are you talking about my dad? There would be that weirdness about it.
There would be that weird.
Yeah, because I'm a fool. That's why. All right, so we have cats throwing up. Let us know if your cat or your dog is a heel, if your pets are heels or baby faces in the comments below. If you're enjoying the podcast, hit us up. Let us know that as well. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe. We'll be back tomorrow with our Hard to Kill pay-per-view preview in your ears and in your eyeballs. But until then, when watching wrestling, please do the most important thing, which is, Dominic, what?
Enjoy it.
Enjoy.